I like learning languages. Like I can sit down. I tried to teach myself Mandarin Chinese once, just because why not? I was freelancing and I had this time over where I was between jobs, and I just signed up. I identify myself, Olle the runner. I am a runner. But what happens if I can't run? What happens if I have to amputate my leg? And I chopped it off like this, so I could see the bone in there.
Diagonally chop off.
Yeah. I'm not sure how much detail I should go into.
I love details.
Yeah.
Maybe not all the listeners, but I love these kind of things.
Hey, that's a good job.
Yeah. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hello. Today we're chatting with Olle. What we know about him so far is that he lived in Amsterdam for many years. He is an ultra marathon runner and he's also a designer. We can't wait to get to know him better together with you guys.
Where do you live now?
I live in Tege.
In Tege?
Up the mountain in Tege.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Like ski in, ski out.
the
Kind of.
Yeah, and that was the actual reason I picked the place when I looked around. It needs to be ski in, ski out, or it doesn't have to, but it should be close to skiing, but also in the summer be close to trails to run. And that was perfect. And then I got a fireplace and a sauna as well, which is a plus. But it's like everything I can think of, like here.
Cool.
Yeah.
Is that many other people living there, or are you by yourself?
In the house,
full year round.
In the house, I'm the only one, and around there's actually a couple of locals living there, but there's a lot of tourists housing there. So it's a little bit. It's not as dead as being living in Björnen, but it's happening stuff there at least during summer as well.
And is it changing? Is there more and more people? I always wondered, because I like that area to live, but it feels so touristy in a way.
I mean, there are a little bit more people living there, but if you're down here, more towards the river, it's more locals. It's So it's a give and take.
But is it growing? Yearly? Is there more people?
It feels
coming?
like it. Yeah, it feels like it's more people coming to Åre to live here permanently, which is nice, super nice. So it's not this ghost town when it's not skiing or mountain biking.
Yeah. We met when we saw you the first time. I guess it was in House B.
Yeah.
A long time ago already, like 3 years ago.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And one of the first things as soon as you realized that we're from Belgium, Holland, you interacted with us by speaking Dutch a little bit. Can you still speak it? Or?
Yeah, in klein beetje.
Een klein beetje, a little bit.
But I used to live in Amsterdam for almost 11 years. And Amsterdam as a city, you don't really need to speak Dutch. English is the main language almost for everyone, it feels like. So it took a while for me to learn it, but it's a little bit respect to the place I come to learn about the ways of doing things. And learning a language, if you're going to stay there for a long time, makes sense. So I started talking Dutch to colleagues, friends, the old lady in the supermarket, and then you get a different interaction as soon as you speak the same language.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't really speak Dutch anymore, I would say.
But your accent is really good though.
Yeah, Amsterdam accent.
Yeah, sounds good. It sounds like the real deal.
Yeah.
When did you start feeling comfortable speaking Dutch? Like how many years in were you then?
It's tricky because if you live in a city where they speak so good English, the locals switched to English when I tried because it's much easier for them than having this guy who barely speaks it, and it takes so much time to speak with that person, me. So it took many years, probably 6 years when I started feeling more comfortable, and I just stuck with it. So like, okay, no, I'm just going to keep speaking Dutch, even if the other person, which is Dutch, switched to English. So I just forced it. And then I am extroverted. I like meeting people. So in the supermarket, I start talking with like old lady, like which tomatoes should we pick, and then we have a conversation about what she's going to do for dinner, and then stuff like that. Or in shop owners and stuff like that.
So we still have 3 more years then.
Yeah, then we need to speak Swedish.
Yeah,
at that point.
But yeah, and that's the same thing here in Sweden or in Åre. People are so comfortable speaking English in general that it's usually easier to switch to English than trying to speak Swedish, you know.
So, and 6 years in, you only spoke Dutch, or you?
No,
shit.
I mean, Amsterdam is such an international place. I think I may be making this up, but I think it's 50% people are not born in the Netherlands.
Could be for sure.
Yeah. So, what was the question again?
No. If you ever, like, there was a moment that you actually switched to 100% Dutch and kept talking to people in Dutch only.
No, it's I worked with English speakers, almost only expats. So I never really switched, and I had a lot of friends who's international people. So I never did a full switch. Working language was English, for example. So it never really happened.
Did you ever fall in love with a Dutch girl?
Yeah.
That helps, no?
Yeah, but it does. But again, I like learning languages. Like, I can sit down. I tried to teach myself Mandarin Chinese once, just because why not? I was freelancing and I had this time over where I was between jobs, and I just signed up. At first, I signed up for a Chinese course, but it was full. So I called up the teacher and got to know which books they were using. And then I bought the books on Amazon, and then I sat at home instead and taught myself. And it's a fun way. I like languages, and it's
Super
a fun
cool.
way of learning stuff.
And did you get somewhere?
I did.
Nice.
And it was both speaking. I also had 2 apps. So the book was more about maybe the writing experience of Chinese, and it's so wild, so different. But I got somewhere. I was in Shanghai, where I could speak a little bit with shop owners, and they blew their mind when this guy came in there, and they thought, okay, he's never going to speak. And then I could order stuff from the in the shop and stuff.
And they could understand you.
Yeah. And it opened up so much more. Like,
nice.
Also, when I'm traveling, it's like, if you know a couple of words in each language, it's enough with hello, thank you, how are you, and such. If you can speak that, people just open up their minds.
It's an icebreaker. You get.
And also, like, you're on the same page now. It's not this tourist or whoever who thinks maybe who doesn't belong here. But if we speak the same language a little bit...
No, you're trying.
Yeah, you're trying. And then you become equal in some way. Yeah. And then they just open up. You can see the eyes glittering and hearts open up. So, yeah.
So going back to Amsterdam, what brought you there?
I got there as an intern. Within digital advertising. So I started out as a design intern. And I thought, okay, Amsterdam, that's a fun thing to do for 6 months. I want to go to like San Francisco or the big places. And then I actually fell in love with Amsterdam because it's such an easy city to live in. The people are nice. You can bike everywhere. It's close to a lot of things as well. And I just got a job. And then I'm just going to stay for a couple of years. And then, it's so easy city to live in. So, yeah.
Yeah. And going back to that girlfriend thing as well, did you ever live with a Dutch girl?
I moved there with a girl together. And she also worked within advertising.
But she was Dutch, I mean.
No, she was Swedish.
No, that's what I mean. Did you ever lived with a Dutch girl and got to meet like Dutch parents and be more of the culture in that way, or not?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Is there anything particular that stands out to you in regards to Dutch versus the Swedish people that you remember or that you've experienced?
Yeah, I mean, Dutch people are more direct. If you will ask for opinion of some sort, you will get their opinion, because you asked for it. And it could be good or bad sometimes. You can get a very direct opinion, which you might not like. While in Sweden, people tend to more like build, not saying it in a direct way. They might mean something, but say something different. So you might need to read between the lines sometimes a little bit more, which when I moved back to Sweden, it was a little bit difficult for me, where like, why don't you just say what you mean? While in Netherlands, it's very direct. And it's like,
do you prefer the more directness?
To some extent. Sometimes it can get a little bit too direct. Like, what do you think about my shirt? Oh, I don't know. I've seen better shirts. I'm not sure. You don't suit that shirt at all. And it might be someone you don't really know that well. If it's from a friend, sure, but sometimes.
And did you become more direct as well?
Yes. Yeah, I have to, because I worked in Netherlands, so it was very direct working as well. But I still had my Swedish part, where my Dutch friends might be a little bit annoyed. Why don't you say straight up? Well, yeah, just package it in a different way in Swedish. Yeah.
And your career, did that change at all in the Amsterdam?
No, I worked as a designer within digital marketing, digital advertising, making websites, and I did that the entire way. I worked both in big agencies full time, but also freelanced for quite a while, and did a lot of stuff with different agencies, both in Amsterdam, out in Europe. I worked against Asia as well sometimes. So I was in the same industry within the same role the entire time.
Yeah, but you moved around in different companies.
Yeah, and freelance quite a lot. Yeah.
Nice.
And what was the story before Amsterdam?
Story before Amsterdam.
Like, where did you grow up?
Yeah, I grew up in a tiny place called Askersund. So it's close to Örebro, in the top of the Vättern Lake, which is like the long, small lake if you look on a Swedish map.
Yeah, so the middle of Sweden and then a bit south of Stockholm, kind of.
Yeah, west of Stockholm, I would say.
Yeah.
Like kind of in middle of Gothenburg and Stockholm.
Yeah.
So I grew up there with my mom and dad and two brothers, and it's this tiny town. It's super cute, close to nature. And like when I was a kid, after breakfast on the weekends, my mom just kicked us out, and he's like, "Don't come back before dinner." And then there was this massive amounts of forests, of lakes, and just going out in nature all the time, and problem solving out in nature and playing all the time. So, and I lived there until I was 12, and then we moved to Malmö in the south of Sweden.
Did you climb a lot of trees?
Climbed a lot of trees. I fell down from a lot of trees, and that I didn't break anything. It's amazing. Was a couple of times when my dad saw me falling from trees and thought I was dead. But yeah, and a lot of freedom there. So incredible personal freedom and personal responsibility giving to a child that's maybe, what can we be, like 5, 6, 7 years old? Just yeah.
But you're always out with other, like your brother, your family, and then some friends.
Family, friends and brother. We were out, and in the weekend sometimes with the family went out skiing, ice skating in the winter, and picking mushrooms in the summer, and just going out on different hikes and stuff. So yeah, that was.
So is that where your love comes from for running and stuff? Because your Instagram name is Olle Runs, right?
Yeah. But it does. We always had a very active family. We always went out running on the weekends in different places, and always sports were part of growing up. Either football, I did some track and field. My oldest brother did ice skating, like the speed skating. My dad is an old football player. My mom ran a lot. My cousin did orienteering. So it was always, and also my granddad was a big inspiration. Even when he was 85, around 85, he ran 10K each Sunday to around, and then went in and had a sauna, and then he had his roast beef and potatoes. That was his Sunday. He couldn't change it.
85, and he was doing that still in a decent pace, or how does that work?
Decent pace, I'm not sure. He probably jogging around in the end, but he got really sad in the end because I think he slipped on like an ice patch or something and hurt himself. And then he got, he couldn't run anymore. And then he got very sad. And,
that is sad, yeah.
Yeah, and then it started, he doesn't live anymore, but it's like, it went out after that.
Quite fast, probably. Yeah. Because it's kind of reason for existing. One of the reasons, let's say.
Yeah.
Just went away.
Also, I cannot speak for him, but for some people, running or being active outside, it's kind of a way of therapy. Like if you have a busy life, running or skiing or whatever it could be a way to kind of decompress whatever happens in your life.
But you had injuries, if I remember well, last year, the year before?
Yeah, I had a couple, some normal running injuries, but also I had a big injury 2 years ago where I fell off my bike and broke my shoulder blade. So
You broke your shoulder blade. Never heard that one before.
No,
wow.
It's very uncommon, and usually it's ice hockey players who get it. But I had a little bit hubris. I was biking after a couple of friends. It was kind of late in the season, so it was very hard road. It was on a gravel bike, and I biked down in a big pothole and didn't really pay attention. I'd done it a million times. I was putting on my gloves, biked into a pothole, fell over the bike and landed on my shoulder. So like the bone, the arm bone went into the socket, and then from there it was a big crack out in the shoulder blade. So it's broken like 4 pieces. And the shoulder blade is, what I heard at least, it's one of the hardest or the toughest bone in the body. So yeah, I broke that. And during that time, I was aiming to run the UTMB, which is the biggest ultramarathon in the world.
What is that?
Ultra Trail Mont Blanc. So you run around Mont Blanc.
It's in France?
In France, and I think it's in Switzerland as well, and Italy, if I'm not mistaken. But you run around Mont Blanc.
Run around Mont Blanc. Yeah. Sounds very casual. Run around Mont Blanc.
But it's 160 kilometers, and to get in it, because it's so popular, it's the biggest in sense of attendance and people know about it. You need to run a certain amount of special races to get a certain amount of points. It's a very tricky system. And I've been building up for that for a long time.
Is that similar to Ironman Hawaii, where you also need to participate in different Ironmans or something to be able to participate there?
It's very similar. Especially now, Ironman, I think it is Ironman. This could be wrong. It's very similar to Ironman.
Yeah, okay.
And in that sense. And so you need, run special races, get a certain amount of points, and I was going to run again Kullamannen, which is a long distance run in southern Sweden, which is 160 kilometers plus, to get extra points. But then I had this, and I had a lot of points from other races, from Italy, from other places in Sweden. I had it from Netherlands, and I couldn't attend the Kullamannen because it was a couple of weeks later from the injury. I even mailed Per, who's the race director of the race, like, he's an old army guy, like, do you think I can run with a broken shoulder? Like, and it's like, you can if you want to, but I shouldn't.
How is the pain of a broken shoulder blade? Like, what do you feel physically?
It's, when it happened, I had so much adrenaline in my body, so I thought I could continue biking to the closest city, because we were out in the middle of nowhere. And then after a while, I jump up on a bike and realize, okay, this is probably bad. It's probably just...
You could still move your arm up and down.
A little bit, but I thought it was soft tissue. So I thought it was muscles that had been destroyed.
Yeah.
And then I start biking. I was like, this is not good. And then after a while, like 10 minutes, a car comes up to me, and it was a hunter. And he had heard the crash from inside the forest. And like, I just want to check how's it going, because I heard this massive crash. And there's bears around here. We saw a bear here a couple of days ago. I just want to check if you're okay. And he said, so he offered me to go in his car. So he drove me to the closest town. I hid my bike in the forest, and I sat there while the other people finished the ride. But I was still in the mindset of, and it hurt a lot, very much. And in this little cafe I was sitting in, or the restaurant, there was an old nurse working, and she looked at it, and her face said something different.
Uh-huh.
So I had like scratch marks and stuff. So she fixed that. I could sit there, drink coffee. But I was still in my mind, it's just soft tissues.
Yeah.
And then after a couple of days, I actually went to the hospital to check it out.
After a couple of days.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because,
So you slept on painkillers or something, or what did you do?
Yeah. But I mean, I've been, with being active, sometimes you're getting injuries. Sometimes it could be a torn tendon, like it could be torn muscle and stuff like that. And I thought, if I go to the hospital, they will tell me, okay, it's going to be 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever it could be. Just take it easy.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's what they're going to say. But I went in there, we did an x-ray. The x-ray person said, oh, you need to go into the Östersund, the big city. We need to do a proper scan of this. And then I did all the scans there with MRI scan. And then they told me it was the shoulder blade. And then I got morphine, because the shoulder blade, there's so many muscles connecting to it. So whatever you do, it's going to hurt. If I'm lying on my stomach or my back, it's going to hurt. So sleeping the first 3 weeks was horrible. But yeah.
And how did they fix it?
It healed by itself.
Really? You didn't have to screw things together?
No, so I was in the emergency room for a while, and like the socket of the shoulder, if they had to double check, so it was like 3 doctors had come in over the course of a couple of hours and look, because if that was cracked all over, then they had to do a surgery. But now it was just a small crack. And then it's like, there's nothing we can do about it. And then the shoulder blade healed by itself.
Wow. And you got the points to do that Mont Blanc thing, or that never happened in the end?
And I was pretty unlucky, because this was my real big chance of doing it, because the points has a expiry date as well. So a lot of the big races I did a couple of years ago, their points expired. Yeah, unfortunately, I lost a lot of points. And it's a couple of years, depending on how committed you are to the race. And then I lost a lot of motivation. So I started running a lot less. I didn't feel the joy of running, because I've been working for this for a couple of years, and I just took a step back instead.
How rare is it to get into that race? How many people apply, and how many are actually allowed? Or
actually don't know, but it's in the end, it's a lottery. So even if you have a lot of points, it's still a lottery. And some points or some races give a certain type of points where you have a higher chance of winning the lottery. So
it could have happened that you weren't even picked in the end.
Yeah, it could have been.
Okay.
Could have been. But the chances of that disappeared for the next year is like, I had like 8% less chance of joining the lottery. So it was a big chunk that disappeared.
So that must have been super heavy mentally, as I can imagine. How did you get out of that?
I think in the beginning it was really, really tough mentally. Having goals that disappear, which I cannot control. It was really hard. And also running And having that goal was my way of therapy. So running helped me decompress from work. And now I couldn't do that. So it was very hard. But in the end, I think I needed it, to be honest. I really needed it. If you're looking from the positive side of things, is that I had to reconnect with what I wanted and such. And I could only have that if I had a moment to sit still with my emotions, sit still with my feelings and all that, and not go out and run. So, yeah. Found different ways.
Like what?
Therapy, like going and talking.
Like real therapy?
Real therapy, yeah. But also reconnecting with why am I training? Why am I running? Why am I out in nature? And really reflect. So it was a big time to reflect on life in really. So, yeah.
And what was your answer to those questions then? Like, did you find another way to fulfill those needs that you had, that running gave you within yourself? Or did you find another hobby, or how, kind of trying to visualize how you then managed to release the running for a bit?
I think one way, one realization I had is that running and like activities outdoors is a really good therapy in general. And like, that's why you being, what do you call it? The doctor will prescribe running or being out in nature and such. So it's really good. But if, for me at least, that putting everything in one bucket, saying, okay, running is my therapy, and I needed to find other ways of doing it. So I reflected, and some stuff was, I want to do more design. I want to have closer relationships with people around me, and that could be that I'm not going out running long run on a Thursday or on a Saturday, for example. Yeah.
So connections with people, design. You found other new interests then.
Yeah.
Because I can imagine that I've never been into one thing very much. My problem might be the opposite, that I am like, my mind is scattered all over different things. And I think it's beautiful. I admire people who can put so much passion and discipline and into one beautiful thing. But I always wonder if it then becomes your identity in some way, that you are so in line with that one sport that you do. Like they say with the Olympics, that people, when they come out of the Olympics, they often go into depression because that's what they've been living for 4 years, and suddenly that's gone. Then and who are you? I think that's the biggest question in the end. Like, who is the real person still in there?
Yeah.
And it's not an easy one.
It's definitely, and I've been, actually before my injury, I like reflecting on things, and I've been reflecting on specifically this thing, like what happens if I cannot run? I identify myself, Olle the runner. I am a runner. But what happens if I can't run? What happens if I have to amputate my leg? Like, who am I? I am more than just running. Running is a way for me to express myself, but it should not be the core who I am. I am so many other things, and it's just a vehicle. And I've been reflecting on that before, but now when this happened, I really had to sit down with my feelings but who am I? And running was just a part of it.
And take us through a before your accident, your mind and a day in your life. Is it you wake up and I need to run? I'm going to go out. I'm going to run. Or you have like a schedule, a week, a month. You train for stuff, or how does it work?
When I trained a lot, then I probably trained 6 days a week, and that could be everything from running to go to the gym, going out biking and stuff. But everything was for the goal to go to UTMB, and it was hard the days I couldn't run. For example, injuries will happen, and when that happens, it was very, very tough. And it felt like, okay, I'm missing training here, for example. I'm losing my speed or whatever it could be, and that was very, very tough. So it can get obsessive. When I'm looking from the outside perspective now, it was a little bit obsessive, almost forcing the training to happen, even though maybe I shouldn't train today. And I see it, look around quite a lot, and I see a lot of other athletes maybe into that bucket where it's almost could be destructive. And it was on the borderline for me, almost, is this too much or not? And that's the border as an athlete or a person who likes to be active. It's like, what's the like?
Because it's
the
not
line?
only even the training, because I assume that you also want to try to be as prepared or as protected from injuries as possible. So you probably sleep more, you have less social life, I would say, you eat healthy, you don't drink alcohol as least possible, like all those little things to make yourself the healthiest you can possibly be. So you become like in a certain schedule. I don't know. I find it such a double feeling about it, because I think it's so cool and so healthy and so, but it's too much. That's always a question, I guess, in the end. Like,
and it's up to everyone who does sports and stuff to do what they want. But for me, what I realized with, like, for example, the social life, like and that's what I got from the injury, is that for me, the social life gives me so much energy, and it gives me mental stability to just have people around, maybe go and have a beer after you've been out somewhere and stuff. And with a very strict training schedule, there was no room for that. You can get social interactions, but it's all then in the sphere of training. And I realized I want more in life than just eating super healthy, not going out drinking on a Friday night, because that will ruin the weekend long runs, for example. So I got to the conclusion is that, okay, I need to find a way that I can still do what I love out on the mountains, running, skiing and stuff, and still have a social life. And that meant maybe we go out and have a dinner in town or at home and drink a couple of beers and maybe some wine, and find a balance between that.
And you found it now, you feel?
I think so. I have, so I had an injury in my shoulder. It took a year. I was going to run Kullamannen, which is the race in southern Sweden. And I had an accident with an axe. So I
remember something like that. Yeah.
So it was almost a year ago now. The winter was much earlier that
go
year.
back to that X story. What did you do again?
With the finger.
Yeah.
So I was going to cut up wood at home for the fireplace, and I bought new firewood. And normally the firewood can stand up and you can chop it off like this. But this firewood was tilted, so I had to have my hand. And it was super early. It was like 4 a.m. Haven't woken up. I'm going to chop off the firewood, and I hold it a little bit more like this. And I chop off, you can see.
Oh yeah, there you go. The top of your finger.
Yeah, the top of my finger.
Your pointy finger as well.
And I chopped it off like this, so I could see the bone in there.
Diagonally chop off.
Yeah. Oh. I'm not sure how much detail I should go into.
I love details.
Yeah.
Maybe not all the listeners, but I love these kind of things.
But basically what happened is that I see this happen. I go into problem-solving mode. I had my phone close to me. I call the emergency number on speakerphone. At the same time, I go and get bandages and stuff. I'm on the phone with a really nice person there, and I said, can I go to the hospital here in Åre? And he's like, there's no one there. Like, there's no need for you to go there. You need to go to Östersund, which is, what is that?
Wait, there's no one there at the hospital? Does that ever happen?
Not for this, not emergency room for this, he said. I had to go to Östersund and asked, is there like anyone who can come by and look at it? It's like, no, you have to go to Östersund.
Did you still have the top?
Yeah, so it was hanging by
Okay, because I think if I'm correct, I might be wrong, but do you have 6 hours-ish to fix something like that?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. But basically what happened is that I bandaged it and I'm on the phone with him. And then I tell him, like, I think there's a shock response coming in my body. Adrenaline is going out. I've been here before. I just feel the shock is bubbling up. And he's like, no, take it easy. Don't be too afraid. And the next thing I remember is that I'm sitting on all four on the floor, and his voice on the phone has changed to his problem-solving mode. Like, there's someone on the way. Don't be. Are you there? Hello.
So you did go in shock, kind of.
Yeah, and I could feel it bubbling up. And then when I came out of the shock, I was back to normal. And it's like, I'm not sure if you need to send someone. But then it came a nurse and looked at my finger and said, this looks good, but you have to go to Östersund. So I went to Östersund. And
they drove you there then, or you drove yourself?
My friend who I was supposed to backcountry ski with, she drove me in. And I think I was in the emergency room for an hour and a half in total. And during that time, we amputated top of the finger because it was cut off in a way that if we're gonna like sew it back on, there might be a chance that it doesn't survive. Like, there's no blood flow to the top. So we had to take a decision. I got 2 minutes to make my decision, sitting there. And he was very happy to cut it off, the Dutch surgeon.
Yeah? Because why more that than try to give it a try and then chop it off if it doesn't work?
I also was going out traveling just a couple of days later, and I want to be out traveling. So, but there was a big chance of, like, I'm not sure what the English word for it, but blood poisoning, perhaps.
Okay, yeah, that's bad.
Yeah. And it was such a small piece on the, not small, but from the joint here and up. It was hard to get it to.
Do you ever miss it?
Yeah, I mean, of course. It's been tough. It was really, really tough. It felt like a part, of course, a part of me, but also a part of who I am disappeared, and it was really, really, really tough.
So, because for the listeners, like, a lot of people chopped off a little piece of the top of their finger, and that usually just grows back. But now we're talking about until, like, your first bend. Piece. Yeah. So that's quite a centimeter. Yeah. Almost.
And also the amount, like, also the index finger on my left hand. I'm right-handed, luckily. But it's like, I cannot type with my keyboard properly. There's certain things I cannot do when I'm out on the mountain. And also,
what is hard on the mountain now? Sorry to interrupt.
But locking stuff, like using the finger, because the feeling is different. I have both extra sense of feeling, but also not at all. Certain types of touch and stuff doesn't work. So locking my ski boots, for example, I have to do it with my right hand because it feels weird. And there's a high pressure in my finger as well.
How many months ago is this?
This is a year ago.
A year ago already?
Yeah.
Yeah. You probably get more used to it over time.
Yeah.
In a few years, you probably won't remember, but it's going to take a while, I guess.
Also mentally, it was tough mentally because it's something I see all the time, and it's something other people see all the time. I was disgusted by it because in the beginning it didn't look very nice, and then I got very self-conscious about it and thought about what other people are going to think about it. So it was really tough, and also I missed that race I was going to run a year before again because I cannot run with all the stitches and stuff. So, yeah.
And where are we in the world now of modern technology and prosthesis and stuff? Can you put a fake piece on it?
I have friends who sent like brass.
Like a metal.
Yeah, exactly. Which looks pretty cool. But I don't think there is really a good option for it.
And how are you now mentally? Have you kind of accepted it, or are you still in the process?
Yeah, now I accepted it. This is part of me. This is who I am. I cannot change it. So the only thing I can do is, of course, process it, because it was almost like losing someone close to you. It's the same process of going through grief, going through some anger, going through all these emotions to it is what it is.
To acceptance.
Yeah, acceptance.
I heard about that being a very hard thing, for example, for women who have breast cancer and that surgery, and then accepting their body, being changed, and then literally, something that is a part of your personality has disappeared, and kind of they explain it as a re-falling in love with yourself in some way.
Totally.
And a finger is different than breast, but still, it's
but I think it's good to hear in a way as well that even a small thing in your body you could feel at the same things as you would feel maybe with the breast. I'm not saying one thing is harder or the other, but it kind of surprises me in a way that it's that impactful. But it's good to realize that it is an important part of you as well.
Yeah. And I think I didn't reflect on it that much, but you grew up in this body. I feel like this body is my vehicle, and I've been growing up with this thing my entire life. So you have a relationship with it. My hands, I've seen them grown from tiny child hands to these hands I have today. But it's the same thing that's evolved. And then when a part of that disappears, it's a big...
I just had yoga here in Duvet on Monday, and somehow 3 of the people I ended up talking to after the yoga session, they shaved off their hair at some point in the last few years because of kind of wanting to see how it feels to take that part of your identity away, because how our hair looks is such a big part of our identity.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting as well. It's quite radical.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not ready to do that. But I don't know. It still lingers in my head somewhere.
Yeah. But I think it's a very interesting thought. Like, we didn't choose a body. It's what we're born with. But still, I wouldn't consider myself me being my body. I'm the thing that's whatever my consciousness is, if it's in the head or whatever it is, that's me. And my body, it's just, again, a vehicle in some sort.
Yeah. But it's not easy to separate.
Of course. And that's how we grew up, because we see our body and all these things. And this is me. But it's, in my mind, the body is not me. It's just a thing that moves me forward, in a sense.
How many years ago did you move to Olle?
4.5 years ago.
And do you have a feeling that you've found your community of people that even through these hard moments were there for you and stuff?
Yes, I think it was hard when I moved to Åre to find people. And I've been here once. I didn't know a single person in Åre when I moved here. And it was during the pandemic. And that was really tough, because I like having a community. I like having people around. But now I have people around which I think like, I found my tribe.
Where did you find it eventually? Where did it start growing?
So again, when I moved here, I didn't know anyone. And I didn't know any places where I could meet people. There were no meeting points for people to meet new people. Of course, there's House B and such, but I start thinking, if there's nothing here, I need to create it. So I had this idea, creating a meeting place for people, but I didn't know how. And one way of doing it, I started out with movie nights. So I curated a lot of movies, and then I showed it in the Kreperiet in Åre, and just invited people in, and it was free. And I tried to find a nice outdoor movie, so like short clips, to just inspire people, and in that way create a forum for people to meet other people, and it was super fun, very time consuming.
It's so cool though. I'm so sad we never made it somehow with the kids and babysitters, and it never worked out. But does it still happen?
It doesn't happen now. It's just very time consuming. It's super fun. So getting some local filmmakers in to speak about the film before, and I think it was a success with
Nice.
it.
You think about picking it up, or
Maybe, but maybe again, time.
But isn't it worth then to charge something for it so it makes it more worthwhile for you as well?
It could. It's just it took. I'm a little bit perfectionist, and I like to find the good movies. It needs to be the right length, the right message. It needs to play good to each other. So making like a small playlist of movies or short clips, and that takes a lot of time. So at the same time I was doing these movie nights, me and my friend Åsa was out biking, gravel biking, and we talked about like where we met a lot of people along the way. It's like, do you know this person? No, I don't know this person. And there's another person. Do you know this one? No. But why don't people more bike together? And then we had the idea of like, let's start a bike club. Just collect all the people who likes biking and do social rides. And that was with the same problem, but a different solution. Gathering people around to have like a forum for people to meet new people. So I spend more time towards the bike club, for example.
Cool. Also a fun idea.
Yeah.
Do you have more of these ideas in your mind that you want to?
Not at the moment. Right now, the gravel club, so Olle Gravel Club, takes up a lot of my creative time at the moment.
In what sense?
So during this summer, like the last year, I think we've been 150 individuals in total who biked with us. And we do social rides every Thursday. And it's around 50 to 60 kilometers each time. And the core idea is that it's all about social. So like we adapt the pace to the group. And it's just, it needs to be a social
That's
pace.
100 people biking together, or is it not that many people every time?
No, we've been between 10 and 25 people each time. And it's always new people. Some people travel up to order to bike with us.
Wow.
Some coming from Östersund. Some people never biked before on a gravel bike and try it out. And it's such a nice group of people.
Is that through a website or is it Facebook or
Instagram. Olle Gravel Club. That's what we do. And we've been thinking about doing some more longer rides on the weekends, maybe going out like bike packing. Now I'm designing some merch. People ask for merch all the time. So there's going to be some caps coming. There's going to be some t-shirts coming and all that stuff.
I saw actually that you were, if I'm correct, that you were making bikepacking bags together with Lundhags with old leftover materials. Is that correct?
That was super fun. So Alexandra, who bikes with us, she works at Lundhags, and we were out biking. And during these social rides, there's always all these different kinds of ideas popping up. There's so many different people. And Alexandra said she had made her own bike bags from reclaimed jackets. And we start talking like, should we do something together? And she wanted to do something. So we met up in Lundhags in their factory, and from reclaimed jackets and pants, we did these bike frame bags. And such a nice way of both do a sustainable thing, but also gather the local community to do something together, because it's super nice social event in the factory.
And the result looked amazing.
Yeah.
I was really impressed. And some of these things are so Swedish that people back home are probably like, okay, in Sweden, everyone at school learns how to use a sewing machine.
Yeah.
That is not normal for the rest of the world, I think. And I think it's incredible that guys, as funny as it may sound, but guys can use sewing machines.
Yeah.
And so you could actually just do this yourself. So cool. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, you have wood shop part of the time, and then you have the sewing classes half of the time. And we made a lot of jokes about that, being in the sewing class again in middle school.
I can imagine.
Are there any other projects like that on the horizon? I mean, working together with other brands or creating stuff that you're doing now thanks to that social bike rides? Or are you just with the merchandise itself? It's already probably a lot on your mind.
Yeah, but maybe what I really liked about the social rides is that showing people around and making sure everyone is enjoying it to the extent they can enjoy a 60-kilometer bike ride. So I really enjoy that part. I'm almost feeling like I'm some sort of a mountain guide, showing people around, making sure people have enough candy and stuff. So that's super fun. So I have ideas of maybe doing something similar, but nothing that
I've never done gravel biking.
Mm.
Well, I grew up in the flat countries where we bike all the time, but I've never done like specific gravel biking. But I feel like I want to start now. It sounds so much fun.
Yeah, but it's a very nice way of getting around and seeing the mountains, nature. Of course, you're driving on roads or biking on roads, but up here in Åre, there's so much nature around. So even if you're on a gravel road, you have a big mountain next to you or really deep forest and such. So, and with most of the things out on the mountain, you can select your own difficult level. So you don't have to go super fast or very far.
And are there enough good roads for this?
Yeah,
Here?
I think there's a lot of tools out there that you can see what's a gravel road or not, like digital tools. There are, but it's yeah, there are.
Victor, have you done it yet? Gravel biking?
No,
Okay.
I'm a downhill biker. Sorry.
Sorry. You don't say sorry for that. It's super fun.
Maybe we can, the same for us, but maybe we can start mixing it up. Like,
I mean, where I come from, it's like you don't do gravel bike or road bike if you are a downhill biker.
Yeah.
It's mixed communities.
Yeah.
Or separate communities.
what if we do an event where the two mix and mingle and see what comes out of it?
Yeah.
It's gonna be a fight. No.
But I see a lot of downhill bikers getting into gravel biking.
See, there you go.
It's because they're getting old.
Yeah, they want spandex.
Spandex. That's the only sad part about it, is that you have to get into the spandex. I don't know if I'm ready for that yet. It's a commitment.
But that's the thing. What I'm trying to get with a little bit with the merch is that it is not road biking. You don't need to have the tightest clothes ever around. It's okay to go with a flannel shirt. It's okay to go with shorts. Go with whatever feels good for you. And that's what we're trying to get in there. Is like, it's not this prestigious thing. It's the opposite.
Has your mind gone to doing very long gravel bike trips then as well, since you're an endurance athlete? And have you done any?
Yeah. I usually try to do one every summer. Like 2 summers ago, I biked through the fjordlands of Norway. Was really nice until I crashed my bike. My bike fell over and I got 2 big mechanical issues, and I had to go back to Åre. But the amazing thing with gravel biking is that you can strap everything from tent to sleeping bag to kitchen to food and just go with it. And you can see so many amazing places from the bike that you would miss if you were in a car because you just zap past it. So in Norway, going up Trollstigen, Geiranger Fjord, and stuff like that on a bike.
That's a serious uphill, man.
Yeah. I think it was around between 1,500 and 2,000 altitude meters each day. And whatever you gain in the morning, you're going to get after lunch. And that was amazing. Some downhills there, it was like 2 pedal strokes for 30 kilometers.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty chill.
And you do this alone, or you had
That
friends
I
with
did
you?
alone.
Yeah.
I've done a couple smaller ones with friends as well. It's the freedom of knowing I can put up my tent anywhere I want and go there on my own machine, so to speak. It's the feeling of freedom. It's amazing.
Yeah, that sounds really nice. That I think I could get into, just bikepacking. But yeah, in our next life. And do you have any dreams of where you want to go bikepacking in this world?
Yeah, I have many dreams.
Tell
of
me.
that. Japan is high on the list.
Why?
I was in Japan 2012 perhaps, and I met this old businessman in the airport, and we sat and talked. He really wanted to talk to me, and an old man in a suit eating sushi next to me. And we start talking, and it's like wanted to know if I liked Japan and such. And then he said, if you're ever coming back to Japan, you need to bike through Japan. The best way to see Japan is going slow between the small villages, because a lot of towns in Japan has been a capital once, because there were so many smaller states through the country. And that sparked an idea. And I didn't really think about it for a while, because I was not a biker then. And now, in hindsight, I really want to do that.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And one idea is to start in the south, going up the country, and then ending in Hokkaido and go skiing, like end of the trip. So that's one.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's one. And also biking in Nepal would be amazing. Yeah.
Are the roads good enough and stuff there? I guess so.
I think so.
Yeah.
Actually, it was my middle brother, I'm the youngest, who had a plan to do it. And that sparked also in something in me that maybe I should do that.
Has he
too.
gone for it yet?
No,
Or
he has.
working on-
No, he has not. He has 2 kids, and it's a little bit tricky with 2 kids in Nepal on the roads there.
Is
I
it
think.
doable for you to take a few months off to realize these kind of dreams?
Yeah. But at the same time, living in Åre, I don't feel the same urge of going far away to travel, because there's tiny adventures all the time here. So like microdosing adventures in Åre.
It's a good way of saying it.
Yeah. Instead of working my ass off and then taking a couple of weeks vacation, I don't feel that need. Here it's a weekend could be a mini vacation all the time.
That's very true. Yeah. And it's good to remind ourselves of that. Often, even in Åre, I think we get into I think red race is a big word for that. But you get into life and life is happening, and in the weekends you're just like, oh, I need to rest. But it can feel so rewarding to just take that weekend and get out of here and have a little mini weekend holiday.
Sure.
Yeah. Just put up a fireplace somewhere next to a lake and just hang around, it's...
Yeah, you don't need much, but it's...
You don't need much at all.
Are you still thinking about ever participating in that one race? Sorry to go back there, but I wonder if that's something that's inside of you still, or you've completely let that go?
I have a hard time saying absolute no. Maybe. Right now, it's not on my planning to go back. I would love to go back if I had the points, but it's going to be a couple of years ahead of time. So I have other tinier, smaller goals. I was in Chamonix last year, just running around in the mountains in the Alps around Mont Blanc, not for a race, but just doing it, and it was nice. But
I just wanted to ask: is competition an important thing for you?
I would like to say no, but when I'm standing on the start line, I am competitive. I like competing against myself, but also other people. Knowing that, okay, these 10 people passed me, I'm going to take them in 20 kilometers, and having that mindset, it's super fun. But I never trained for the races themselves. I trained for the races to see how far I can push myself. So first of all, training, or racing against myself, and then other people.
Yeah, see how far you can push your limits.
Yeah.
And it is always different in the competition to push your limits with that pressure from behind. We've done a few Arctic Splitboard challenges in Northern Norway, and I absolutely loved it. I always say, like, I don't get why people do a marathon. But then in that competition, it pushed me, knowing you look behind you and you see all these people, you're like, oh, I need to stay in this position. And you push yourself to positions, to ways you've never done before.
Yeah, you would never push yourself. I wouldn't push myself the same way, because I get very comfortable I'm a very comfortable person. But in a race, I cannot be comfortable. I need to stay ahead of these people, or I need to chase down those people. So I totally understand.
But you
that.
don't, if I hear it correctly, you don't really mind if you didn't get the first place, but you do mind if you did worse than the last time, kind of. You do want to do better than your previous version of yourself.
Yeah. And also I want to know when I crosses the finish line, I've done the uppermost of what I can do.
Yeah.
Without injuring myself or breaking myself. And that usually boils down to how much do I want this? How much can I allow pain in my body? And yeah.
And this need, I think it's a beautiful need, but this need to grow, do you have that in your job as well?
Yeah, I think if I get stagnant in anything, I get bored and sometimes even depressed. So having a feeling of I'm growing is very important in anything I do, I think.
What are you doing now at the moment in your work?
I'm a designer. I'm designing apps for a company. I'm full-time at the company, and we're designing different apps.
And the company is not based in Åre, then maybe somewhere else?
It's based in Stockholm. There's offices all around Sweden and Europe, to be honest. And we have a tiny office here in whatever, 3 people. Yeah, but that's also important. Feel like, okay, I'm growing. I don't need to push myself to the limit, but at least I feel like, okay, I'm going somewhere. It's very important. Otherwise, again, I get depressed and
how do you have a way in your daily life to protect yourself from depression?
I mean, doing what I love is one way of doing it, and just being true to myself, being honest. Is this what I want to do? And being honest about it is one way of doing it. And then again, going back to training, it's good having good people around, having a fulfilling job, and all that stuff. It's and being true to it. Is it what I want, and not someone else wants for me. Is one way of doing it. Also therapy to protect from
Yeah, I think therapy is amazing, and I think it's incredible that there's people in this world that can help us to clear our the space before our brains, our mind, or all of that. Have you ever had a hard time? Like, did you ever fight therapy, or have you always been embracing it?
I'm a seeker as a personality, so I'm always like reflecting, but also think there's something better. Like, not that's the wrong word. I always been a seeker, and I like to see if I can grow myself. And I had a moment in Amsterdam where I was fighting burnout. I was in a pretty bad state in Amsterdam, depression, a lot of anxiety, overworked to the max. And there I tried to reach out to therapy, but I didn't find at that moment the right therapy for me or the right therapist. And that was a hard time. And then I thought, okay, therapy is not the way to go. And then it was a little bit more running perhaps now if I'm looking out for it from behind. Like, yeah.
And now here in Åre or in Sweden, you found better suited therapists for you, let's say then.
Yeah, and also give it a shot, longer shot. Not saying after a couple of times, this is not for me, this is not working. Maybe it was just me being uncomfortable, like looking around, stuff that needed looking at.
Do you have any advice for somebody who maybe wants to start with therapy? What's the first step you take?
First step, I think, if you have people around, just talk about what you feel and stuff. Okay, I have anxiety. I feel a little bit down. And that's usually, for me, was a way to put words to my thoughts or my feelings. Even if I don't have the solution to it, it just helped out. Oh, this thing might need looking into a little bit more. So speaking about it openly, and don't be afraid, because everyone is going through something. It's a human thing to feel down or anxiety. It's part of our experience. And then don't be afraid to try therapy. And if it doesn't work, find another therapist. It's almost like going to a hairdresser. If you don't like the hairdresser, you switch. And it's the same thing with therapy.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good advice. Because it is, you often notice that people find it scary to open up about things, but in the end, we all, like you say, we all go through our struggles. And I remember that I used to write a lot when I was younger and found, but the same way when you write down your thoughts, suddenly they become more real and logic, and you can read it again and find out where you were struggling. And
yeah, and that's one way of doing it. It's like a lot of journaling. If you read around on the internet and talk to therapists, journaling is one way. And it's the same thing about talking, I think, is that you form the words and such, and trying to get to the core of what is it bothering me.
Yesterday, I actually used AI to solve my psychological problem. Because, to put it in more detail, we were going on a trip to Finland, which I think is an amazing holiday for the kids. And our daughter has a competition and a scouts thing in that weekend that she has to miss out on. And she was very sad and mad about it that we're going. And I said to her, in some way, my frustration was like, now you sound really spoiled because we're trying to create this amazing trip and she's just complaining about something else. And then she stormed off mad and I was like, okay, ChatGPT, can it help me? So I go online, explain the problem, what I'm dealing with. And I'm like, how can I reconnect with my daughter? And how can I solve this problem? Because at that point, I was so frustrated that I didn't see the solution. And it then said like, yeah, but this is so funny if you read it. She goes through these emotions because they are real. She is sad. So you can say, I understand that you're sad about this because when I was young, I probably had to cancel certain things to do other things. And that is just a part of life. And then maybe incorporate her in the trip that you're doing so she understands better what it is about and all these other tips. So I went to her and I said, Fenna, can you come with me? And I said sorry for what I did. But I also showed her the Airbnbs where we're staying and if she likes them. And I just made her part of the trip. And suddenly her mood just changed and she was a completely different child. So ChatGPT solved my problem.
That's amazing. But it's in a way talking to someone, it's just getting down your emotions. And amazing.
Yeah.
Getting another point of view, basically.
I think mostly that, You're so stuck in your own way sometimes.
But I think that's what a therapist generally does. There's no judgment. They just listen and then they give their point of view on things and you do with it what you want. And then a lot of times that helps in itself.
I'm curious from your perspective, because I like what you're doing in the way of bringing people together here in Ore. Do you have other ideas or visions of how Ore can become even a better place?
Wow.
That might be a deep one, but I don't know. Somehow feel like you have certain thoughts that might be interesting about this place.
One thing, or I think it goes to, I don't have solutions to it, but I think Ore would be a better place if there's more places for people to meet other people, to make new connections. And the solution to that, I don't know. I had an idea of starting a restaurant at one point where it's just kind of like a living room where people just walk in and hang out. But I spent so much time in thinking about the gravel club, I haven't got to more solutions for it.
But then I think, like, isn't that there? In my head, it's there already. Like, Greta and Buggery, and there's a lot of coffee places, and there's a lot of bars, and there's restaurants. So what are you missing in that sense?
Maybe a more place that's not just a restaurant, but it's almost like this after-school hangout. In Sweden, we have this fritidsgård where you can go after school and hang out with other people playing pool and stuff like that. But just a place where people meet, just hang out. That's basically it. And sure, that could be a restaurant, but that's usually you go there if you have a need, and that need is I want to eat a sandwich or a pasta.
But the pub, like you have Park Villan and you have Broken and stuff.
Yeah, but again, maybe that's just how the Swedish culture is. It's like you go to a place with a group of friends, and then you hang around with those friends. You're like this little clique who sits here. While in Amsterdam, I remember you go out on a bar and you start talking to the people next to you, and all of a sudden your two groups join together, and you never met them before.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe I don't see it like you do because I still do that because I take my Dutch personality to a Swedish bar.
Yeah.
So that's probably why. Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
And sometimes it works here, and sometimes they just look at you and think, "Are you a little bit crazy? Like, who are you? Why are you talking to me?" But yeah, I don't have a solution to that. But I think.
But I get the idea of just creating a space where you're not supposed to come with a lot of friends. You just go there, hang out, and then maybe you're there and I play pool and you have a friend and we start talking to each other, and that's the way you connect. Right?
Yeah.
I see a good idea here. So if anybody's listening and wants to get this going, get in touch with Olle. Yeah, why not? I think we also talked about this at some point, to have like to rent a space where we just have some simple or delicious, but simple kind of food, like burritos and stuff. And you can just come over and I love books, so there's books as well that you can just grab and read, and just like a hang spot for adults, maybe. Because you have Lokalen, like for the younger people with the skate ramp and stuff, that one.
But that kind of, like to elaborate on the idea of that place, I was also into burritos. Like imagine just having a place where you can buy a burrito, a small burrito, just put it in your pocket, you go out on the mountain. You have like big blackboards where you see, okay, this is the record of this run or this bike now. So you have like a high score up on the board. You have interesting like inspiration stuff to do around, and or
maybe cool. Where you can meet and just then go together to if you're alone and you want to hook up with somebody to go bike or hike or ski. That's also something I would like to have
I think we need to have a meeting about this. I think we are very much on the same level that we find this important as well. So, good idea.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, let's do it.
Is there anything we haven't touched on yet that is in your mind? Maybe about traveling. Did you travel a lot in your life?
Yeah, I travel quite a lot. And that's why I feel like I don't have the big need to go traveling. When I was freelancing in Amsterdam, I traveled quite a lot. I've been around big parts of the world.
Is there any parts that stand out for you?
I love Asia. I've been both in Indonesia, China, South Korea, Japan, and I just love that part of the world. Japan, it's very spiritual. You have tiny shrines everywhere. It's almost like being in a Studio Ghibli movie, like Spirited Away. And people are nice. It's good food and such. And I love that part of the world.
But not in a way that you actually want to move there and live there. More of a holiday or travel destination then.
At one point in my life, I was playing with the idea of going to Shanghai to live there, looking for jobs in Tokyo. So I always had this itch to go to places. Always back then, at least, there was a lot of, can I live in Vancouver? Should I live in Chamonix? Or maybe in Spain, and such. And but right now, I'm super happy here. And that itch, it's not itching anymore, the same way, at least.
There's something magical about this place.
Yeah.
In that sense that it kind of fulfills many needs of a human that other places can't, or something.
So you see yourself living here for a while now?
Yeah. And again, I'm not into absolutes, but and I don't know where I'm going to be in 10 years. Maybe I'm not here. Maybe I'm in Vancouver or Shanghai. Who knows? But right now, what the Warrior has is that you have this massive amount of nature where you can be alone. You're not going to hear a single human thing, not an aircraft, not a car. You can just be there. And then you go into the village, which is this tiny town, which is almost like a city, where you have all the city life and restaurants, and you bump into people and shops and so on. So it has a lot of things
Yeah.
that I'm.
I guess that's why
Looking
we
for-
also like it.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why we are.
Where can people follow your adventures and see if you still live here in 10 years?
Olle Runs in Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll put that in the description below.
Did you think about changing that name?
I did actually, but I haven't found what I should. Actually, looked. There's my name is Olle Larsson, and there's a man living somewhere along the coast, which is Olle Larsson on Instagram, and I reached out to him a couple of times because he doesn't really use that account. Offer him a bottle of whiskey, but I think he's think I might be a scam or something. So I might go there and knock on his door with a bottle of whiskey to see if he's willing to switch.
That's a great plan.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I would like to see that happen.
Yeah, maybe I should film it.
Yeah, for sure.
GoPro on my head.
Lovely plan.
Nice.
Yeah, so anybody thinks of a good name for Olle, you can also post it below in comments.
Yeah.
Suggestions.
Slide in my DMs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Finder's
great
fee.
plan. To wrap it up, we have some rapid fire fun, if you're ready.
Yeah.
Snowboarding or skiing?
Skiing.
Hot tub or sauna?
Sauna.
Evening person or morning person?
Morning person.
Hiking or biking?
That's a hard one. That's a really
We should
hard
ask a
one.
different one. Running or biking?
Running.
Okay.
Oh no, it's 50-50 to be honest. Yeah, but now I said running.
He's struggling. Can I go back?
I cannot be Olle Bikes.
You could be.
You could do all the bikes and runs and hikes and skis.
Yeah, very long handle.
I think that would work. People will find it immediately, so that's going to be good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for today.
Yeah, thank you so
Lovely.
much.
Thanks for talking. It was good to hear your stories.
Thanks for having me.
Mm.